Hi there, Earth Nation. This is Amanda with the Activated Earth, and this is my Summit 2023, all about nature connection. And I am really pleased today to have Deborah with us. She has communications with the dolphins, and actually having somebody who does some sort of animal communication was important to what I wanted to do with the summit. So I'm really glad you're here, and I'm going to read your bio real quick. Deborah Frenette is a university and college graduate. Deborah left the business world after 20 years to become a certified hypnotist. She trained in many types of energy techniques and teaches the spiritual book, A Course in Miracles. Her telepathic connection with real dolphins in Cuba changed her life dramatically, shifting her path to one of healing and spirituality. Deborah offers hypnosis, neuromodulation technique, and the natural control method, very effective treatments that activates her client's own powerful healing channel, the natural control system. She is the author of How to Connect with Our Living Earth, Telepathic Love from the Dolphins, and her upcoming The Miracle of You, Your Secret System. So this is pretty amazing. And I realize as when we've spoken before that you talked about you had an experience that actually shifted you into spirituality, that opened you up to being able to communicate with the dolphins. So maybe we could start with that and tell us what that was.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. And thank you for having me, Amanda. It's a wonderful opportunity to speak about so many things that, I've been charged with the responsibility by the dolphins to get this information out there. And I'm just glad to have this opportunity to do that. So my mother told me about an experience that happened to her when she was having heart failure and repeated heart attacks in the hospital. And she had a pretty serious heart attack. She almost died. And when she came home, she told me that she had an experience. This was back in 1970, and it was a long time before people talked about near-death experiences like they do now. So my mother told me that she had died. She left her body and she was floating above her body, looking down on her body, and she could hear everything that was being said in the operating room. So the doctor said, she's gone. They put their instruments down, and she heard them all talking about this. And then the nurse started to do certain things. I don't remember all the details, but my mother remembered the details. And so she was watching this, and then she had an urge to turn over. So she turned her body over, and she went up into this light that she saw. Well, she got up into the light, and my mother had had a very, very difficult life. And when she went into the light, she felt so much joy and peace and love like she'd never felt before. So she wanted to come back home because she was leaving children, and she didn't want to leave us 6 children alone. So she came back down into her body. And the nurse noticed she was, kind of struggling and moving and breathing. She had been dead for 3 minutes. And so the doctors were called back into the room, and she survived. So she told me about this. And, really, I thought she was out of her mind. And I was very frightened by it. So it took me a long time to delve into it. And I did. I read, my first book was written by Dr. Raymond Moody, who's a famous doctor who studies near-death experience of children because he's a cardiac doctor. So I realized that my mother was telling me the truth. And she really did have this experience. And then I started to research it with my late husband. And it really set us off on a different spiritual journey.
Nice.
We felt very sure that we were spiritual beings. We started to read the books, and then I found, videos and a lot of books on near-death experience, and we studied that for a long time.
So that actually prepared you for having other experiences that might be viewed as not real, like
Right.
communicating with an animal, like getting
Yeah,
a message from an animal.
right.
So what was it then that happened in Cuba when you met the dolphins?
Well, I've got a little bit of prep for that too. I met my first dolphin in Florida, and we were on a beach vacation, and I noticed a crowd on the beach. So I was wondering what they were doing. So Murray and I walked over, and there was a dolphin at the shore, and everybody had left, luckily. And I walked with the dolphin. It was swimming along the shore with me. And it was I could tell it was trying to communicate with me, because I don't know if it was a he or she, but she would sort of turn over and look at me with one eye, and she seemed very mischievous. And I was so excited about it. And we were running and jumping. She was jumping, I was jumping. We were running along the sand. Makes me feel so good to think about it. And she'd be slapping her tail. Anyway, she gave her tail a final slap on the water, and then she left. So that was really very exciting. And then my husband, after he realized that his spirit was real, because he was brought up by a scientist, he got excited and he started researching a lot of sort of new agey type stuff. And he got a magazine called The Connecting Link. And there was an article in the magazine about a professor, Dr. Randall Eaton, who was teaching his students that dolphins could communicate telepathically. And he gave examples about how he could tell that the dolphins were communicating telepathically. And he gave his students a real experience of it by going to a pool and sending telepathic message to the dolphins and having the dolphins respond. And each student had an opportunity to do that. So as you can see, it has a lot to do with belief and openness. So I thought that was amazing, after having seen the dolphin in Florida. But then something even more amazing happened. We planned a trip to Cuba, and it would forever change our lives. So we got to the resort, and we noticed that there was a tour that would tour a farm and a natural aquarium. So little did we know that at the aquarium, we were going to see dolphins and swim with dolphins. So we got there, and there were the dolphins. It was amazing. So they had a show, and then you could pay extra to swim with the dolphins. The place was an ocean enclosure. So, and the fences were so low that the dolphins could just jump over it. So they were in natural water, which was really great for me. I mean, I really appreciated that, because I would just want to say clearly right now that I'm not in favor of having dolphins in captivity.
Right.
So
They were given a choice. That's what you're saying here.
they actually were given a choice. Yeah. And actually one of them, while we were there, one of them jumped the fence and left. Yeah. So, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So I was prepared. When I got there, I was mentally prepared to communicate with the dolphins, which I'm sure was no coincidence because of this article that I read. So we watched the show, and then we were able to get into the water with the dolphins, different dolphins for the show and different dolphins for swimming. And when I touched the skin feels really rubbery. And when I touched their skin, I got so excited, and it just sent jolts of excitement through me. I was just inexplicable. So I started to send out mental messages like Dr. Eaton suggested. And I think it's important for people to know that I sent out a mental message letting them know how sorry I am for, the human destruction of the earth and the degradation of our oceans and the cruelty that people have, toward them and toward animals and the inhabitants of the ocean, and my heart was so full of this, knowing that these are beautiful creatures that can think and feel. So, and then I sent them love from my heart. So I actually do that a lot now as well. Ever since I met the dolphins, it was sending like a beam of love, like a tangible message of love to the dolphins through my heart. And it's about imagining it and imagining that I'm doing that. And I also let the
this is going to be fun for everybody. I actually had a fly land on my camera just then. I'm leaving it in because it's funny.
It is funny. The fly felt the love. I'm not kidding. I've got so many stories. Anyway, so we started to really connect with them right away. Bam. Just amazing. They would come and let us ride on their fins, and we were able to hug them and do really, really wonderful things that other people couldn't do. Other people were not being given those privileges. So the very first time I met them, one of them decided to test me. And so the dolphin came up to me in the water and gently took my arm in her mouth.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
because those teeth can bite a shark in half. I mean, these are huge creatures. They're like over 6 feet. They're massive, like 250 pounds. So I just asked the dolphin telepathically, could you please stop biting me? I mean, it wasn't really biting me. It was mouthing my arm. And it did. It immediately stopped. So that was good. And then, that same day, everybody else went to see the seal show. And I had time just by myself in the water with the dolphins. And the dolphin came up, and I was sitting on the dock, and the dolphin came and put her beak on the dock, and I took my hand and held the beak in my hand. And, I just felt so much love, and gentle breeze came along, and I just gazed into her eyes, and I could feel the love that was between us. It was just overwhelming. And it made my whole perspective shift in that moment. I feel like crying now.
Yeah. There's a lot of energy. A lot of energy is that's coming through. Maybe you could explain what the emotion is that you're feeling right now as you're reliving this experience.
Just all the love and the connection. The big thing is the connection and the love.
Yeah.
Being connected to another being like that and looking into their eyes.
Yeah.
It's like looking into your lover's eyes in a different way. But it just is so connecting and so affirming.
And they're very loving creatures, and it's unconditional, because you're right. We have done a lot of damage to their environment, and they aren't taken into consideration during certain types of fishing.
Right.
So, yeah. And but they're there to help when you need them,
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite, sorry, I'm a little overwhelmed. I didn't feel that this was going to happen, but it's
Yeah,
really
you
important for
never
me to
know.
share this with people. So I often had very many experiences of them coming when I asked them to come. And I would send them mental messages. So you might say, how did you know that you were experiencing this connection with the dolphins? Well, if I tapped you on the shoulder and you turned around, would that confirm that I know that I'm communicating with you?
Yeah, so you energetically gave them a little tap on the shoulder. Yeah,
Yeah, in fact, the cover of my book,
lovely.
this
There
is
you go.
my book, and the
It's going,
dolphin,
it's a little going a
yeah,
little in and out
I
of
see
focus.
that, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know if I can, it's not working very well.
it's not
Um,
working.
Anyway, you'll see the
Okay.
cover of my book, and it has a picture of a dolphin spy, what they call spy hopping up out of the water. She put her head right out of the water. That was Deborah the dolphin, the same name as me. And that was at my mental request, so I could get a picture from my book. Well, I didn't know if I was going to write a book or not at the time, actually, but I just wanted to have a clear picture of her. And I
Mhm.
sent a mental message, and she just came right up out of the water. I took a picture, and she went back again. So that's the kind of thing that would happen. I would sort of arrive at the aquarium, and I would send a mental message to the dolphins that we were coming, and they'd be waiting for us. They'd swim over and wait at a certain spot. One really interesting event that happened was the dolphins are so playful and fun. Oh,
They
they
really,
love
yeah, they
games.
are.
They love games. So they were playing a game with life jacket, which is really funny. And they were teasing one of the swimmers with a life jacket, a life jacket that was floating around. And the dolphin came up and whipped the jacket out of his hand and started playing with the jacket. So people were starting to get a little annoyed because they wanted to go in the water, and the dolphin had their jacket. So the management was trying to get the dolphin to stop playing with the jacket and give it back. And one of the staff persons got into the water to try to get the dolphin jacket back. I mean, the jacket back. And I sent a mental message to the dolphin because everybody was getting annoyed and it was getting out of hand. And I requested that the dolphin allow the jacket to be given to your Melka, which is one of the staff people. And it happened immediately. They stopped playing with it and they gave it to her. She tried previously to get it. She couldn't get it. She got back in. I sent the message. The game was over.
Yeah, yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
I love all of these experiences that really drove it home for you, that you could communicate with them. So I'm wondering now, I can see that you could send them communications. When did it begin that they were actually sending you communications?
Well, I think that was around the end of our first visit with them. And I asked them one day, the first year that we were there, several days into meeting them, why do you allow yourselves to live in captivity? So I got some impressions and feelings back. Not really so much voices in my head. It's probably a good thing.
Right.
But it was more like receiving and understanding from them. And I perceive that they don't mind being in captivity, especially in that place, because the conditions were good for them at that time. And they were treated with love and kindness by their handlers. And they were able to teach people to love and to trust and to know them under these circumstances. So they needed to be with people. It's not right for every dolphin. It's just like people. It wouldn't be right for every person to be in prison so that people could learn something, like Nelson Mandela.
Sure.
People learn from him, right?
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be the same for every dolphin. So they assured me too that they would always be there for me in spirit, because we were heading back to Canada within a day, and they were going to be with me, and they would teach me more, which they did. They taught me so much more, and it unfolded over years. So
Do you think that the dolphin that that took your arm in his or her mouth was actually checking in and asking you to trust it by the way
yes,
it gently took your arm that way? Yeah.
I think that's the biggest barrier for people, to be able to trust their senses and trust their intuition, because we've been schooled from the time we were very young to believe that pretty much everything lies outside ourselves. Our healing, our teaching, everything's outside, done to us by some other person. And when you start to reach in and start trying to learn how to follow your intuition, it can be pretty scary, especially when things start to happen. I need to tell you a story too.
Okay.
There was a couple of German kids, and they were watching the dolphin show, and somehow, I was kidding around with them. I love kids, so I'm always talking to the kids. And then we went to swim with the dolphins, and the German girls came along. And basically what happened was that I decided to teach them and tell them to send mental requests to the dolphins, which I did. And they were kids, so they were open to it.
Yeah.
And they opened up to the idea, and they sent mental requests to the dolphins. I just said to them, just think to the dolphins. I didn't use any fancy word, just think to them. And they actually did. And they did, and they had a really good reaction from the dolphins. And they had a very good visit with them. Sometimes the dolphins would visit well with people, and sometimes they weren't. And I think that has a lot to do with the fear factor. If you're afraid of the dolphins, they're not going to come.
Right. Right. It sounds to me like dolphins are really well connected. You can try to send a message to a human being that way. And it
Yes.
doesn't always register.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really amazing story. What,
Well, I
as
have
far-
another one too. about
oh,
a
okay.
little girl.
You tell me another one, and then I'll ask
Okay.
you a question.
This little girl was interested in the dolphins. I was sitting with her on the dock, and I said, you can think to the dolphins and they'll hear you. So she started to do that, and then my husband and I, we went somewhere else in the aquarium, and I heard all this screaming. And I was like, oh, I wonder what that is. Why is somebody screaming? Well, apparently the little girl was thinking to the dolphins, and the dolphin got very excited, and it came up to the dock, and the little girl got lifted up away from the dock. She was in the water, holding on to the dock. The dolphin got in between her legs and lifted her up and started giving her a ride on the dolphin's back.
Oh, wow.
And the little girl was terrified.
Oh,
So
no.
they got the little girl off the dolphin. And then later I was talking to them, her and her father, when I found out what was going on. And she said, and her father said, yeah, you'll have a great story to tell your friends at school. And she said, yes, I can tell them about how I almost got killed by a dolphin.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
She actually almost had a nice little ride on a dolphin's back.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great story. So once they did start answering your questions and communicating with you, I'd love to dive into the messages that you received that actually prompted you to write your book.
Well, it was like falling in love. I mean, you know how when you fall in love with someone, they have limerence, you have limerence. And I felt a lot of limerence for the dolphins, and it was very hard for me to leave them, even though they told me they would be there for me, and they were. So it was like my life was really charged with the love of my husband, who we'd only been together for a couple of years, and the love of the dolphins. So I started to talk to people about the dolphins, and I talked to my friend, Professor Ben Carnio, who was at the time he was teaching at Ryerson University, and we had already been doing community development work together for many years. And the way he helped me was he confirmed it. You know, this professor, is very well-known professor, confirmed my belief in the fact that I was communicating with dolphins. And then I started to think, well, maybe I should be writing this down. And he encouraged me to write the book. And he encouraged me in a lot of different ways. And one of them was editing and reading and giving me feedback. And so that really helped me to start thinking, I need to get this message out there. Just having someone confirming you and allowing the truth to resonate with them made a big difference for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the message of love and trust is that, are they asking us to adopt more of that in our lives?
Well, they gave me a lot of different mental messages, and I'm just thinking about, I mean, one of the things they said was that they were like the creatures of the sea, like we are the people of the land. They're the creatures of the sea, and they're a more evolved beings. I always felt, you know, they didn't actually tell me that, but I felt very strongly that they were more evolved than we were. If you think about it, you will see that they eat fish. They swim in their environment. They don't need cars. They don't need houses. They don't need to chop things down and tear things down and break things down. And they're joyful, very joyful.
They're
You
happy.
know, I mean, it's not really that hard to figure out if you think about it. That they have incredibly huge brains, and they know how to use them. So they wanted me to know they were the people of the sea, and that they wanted to connect with me so I could start learning how to connect with other animals and be part of the living earth, which is a living, breathing, cognizant, aware being.
Right.
Our earth is a being, right? It's not
Yes.
just a hunk of dirt. And they have a smile so they can make us relax. And they have a friendly face, you know, just like a baby. You know how babies they respond to happy faces.
Mm-hmm.
So we're a bit like that. And they want us to know that they're like an earthly connection to the spirit world and God, or however you want to, you know, choose it. And they want to help us to stop the destruction of the earth. They want us to understand who they are, who we are, even more importantly.
Right. Yeah. Do they act as because the communication with them is easier, do you think it makes, like, they might hold space or energy for helping us connect with God or the earth?
Oh, absolutely. I really do. I believe that because, you know, just one more thing, that they wanted us to learn from them. and learn from their societies, because they have very structured societies, and they communicate with each other very well, and they help each other. They're very cooperative societies.
Yeah.
Hello, people. They're not competitive. Well, they don't have cars, so they can't keep up with their neighbors in the cars. And, they have a whole different perspective on life, on living. And we need to adopt some of that too. Cooperation,
Yeah.
helping each
Cooperation.
other, not tearing each other.
That's actually like one of the what I call codes that I feel coming up and out of the earth. That's part of the reality of what we're meant to create, which is cooperation and collaboration. So living in harmony with the earth includes that piece.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been, advocating for cooperation for years, years. I studied cooperative housing. I was a community development worker. So
So how did that help you then? You branched out into other animals. So is the energy, tell me some of the animals that you are also working with, and what kinds of messages do they have?
okay. Well, first thing I want to just remember that I'm also a student of A Course in Miracles, which is a self-study book. It's a wonderful book of self-study.
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
And that came into my life after the dolphins, and we were more open to it. And I have a little from I think it was lesson 95. It teaches, A Course in Miracles teaches so much. We don't have the scope for it today. But this I use to communicate with animals. And it goes, You are one self with me, united with our Creator in this self. And I honor you because of what I am and what He is, who loves us both as one. So I'm honoring the animal and saying we are one self united in God, and He loves us both as one. And I get responses from the animals when I do that. I've been doing it for many, many years. Many years.
Well, that's a great thing to share, because anybody can do that.
Well, that's the whole idea.
Listening right now can do that. They can take that, even just go get the book, and they don't have to remember it.
It's lesson 95. You can even look it up on the internet. Lesson 95, A Course in Miracles. I mean, that's what this book is all about. It's not about me and what I did. It's about the dolphins reaching out to us and how it changed my perspective, and how I was able to just in a very simple way change, the way I connected with the dolphins, then I'm able to connect with other animals. I connected with the animals at the zoo. So I'd go to the zoo. I would send love from my heart to the animal. I would say we are one self, united with our Creator. And the animals responded. Amazing. For instance, there was a kangaroo at the zoo, and it was this happens so much, over in a certain part of the enclosure. Well, I sent love to the kangaroo. The kangaroo comes running over and presses itself up, excuse me, up against the glass enclosure and looks me straight in the eye, and then goes away again. I mean, that's
you a little acknowledgement.
Yeah, absolutely. And doing that I remember doing that with the giraffes. I had my kids with me, and I sent out love to this giraffe, and the mother giraffe and the baby giraffe came running over and bent down and looked at us and stayed with us for a couple minutes, and then went on to their giraffe business.
Which I'm sure is really important.
So usually when I go somewhere, I try to find the zoo. I don't always find the zoo, but I usually like to, because I feel as though it's part of my journey to go to the zoo and honor and acknowledge the animals who are giving their lives to teach children about animals. That's basically what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I honor them, and they always respond, and they always really appreciate it. They appreciate being confirmed. You know, we all appreciate that. So that's another message I like to give to people is when you see animals, confirm them, you know, tell them we are one being. Thank you for yourself. Thank you for being here. Thank you for teaching my children, you know, confirm them. Act like they matter, because they do, they matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the native people have always known this. It's nothing new for them. They know the Mother Earth is living. They always honored their animals. They gave ceremony to the animals that they killed. They gave honor to those animals. They have so much wisdom. And that's another thing that sort of grew up in me. Well, I have some Métis blood in me, but it's only like 2% of my DNA, but there is some Métis connection there. And I studied so much when I came back. I studied all about dolphins and their societies. Then I was impressed to study about Native people, and I started, you know, seeing the Native people, talking to Native people. I looked at their history. It's appalling the way the Christian, I'm a Christian, but the way the Christian people took over the Native people is appalling, you know, and how, you know, some of the Native people would say, oh, they want this, they want corn, they want gold and silver, they want our women for having their babies, and they just want to take and take.
Yeah.
You know? And the
There's
wisdom,
a lot of taking.
a lot of taking,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of wisdom that the Native people can teach us about how we connect with the earth and why. And I don't think that they've ever not understood that the earth was a living being. And
That's
I know
my
that, you
impression
know,
as well. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of their wisdom comes from the earth. It's passed down through the generations, and it came from the earth.
And it's their shamans or their wise, their wise men or wise women they are that because they have the opportunity to do that connecting. And a lot of tribes learn from plants by meditating with the plant. So they learn what the medicine of the plant is by meditating with the plant.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because plants are living beings too.
Right.
The whole thing is living. The whole thing. You can have such amazing experiences. You know, it's just, for instance, when was it? In March, I was in Costa Rica, and we went to see the rainforest, and we went through the whole rainforest. It was beautiful. And we saw sloths. Most of the time they were just sleeping. They just sort of bundle up in the trees and sleep.
Yeah.
I don't know, sloths, they're like, they move so slow. So we get to the end of the tour, and here's a little baby sloth. Well, I never found out why that baby sloth was in a tree where you could see it, but it was pretty close by, you know, maybe about 10 feet away from me, above my head, very close. And it was all curled up sleeping. So I thought, I'm going to send this sloth love. And I said the one self, and I sent love to the sloth. Guess what happened?
It woke up and came over.
It didn't come over because it was in a tree and I was there. It didn't have to go anywhere. It just sort of woke up, had a big yawn. Oh, it was so cute. I still have a video of it. And I would just, everybody was overwhelmed. I was so overwhelmed. I was like, oh, thank you, thank you. And that sloth was looking around, and no, it was amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah. what I am receiving from our conversation is just the beauty of what a loving connection looks like and feels like. And I'm wondering what you think our future could be on this planet if enough people actually moved into that energy. What would it look like here?
Well, I used to belong to a group when I lived near Vermont, and it was a dancing group, Sacred Circle Dancing, it was called. And we used to do sacred circle dancing in the Stansted Stone Circle, which is amazing, something to look for in Canada, Quebec, Canada, Stansted Stone Circle. And when we did that, I did a couple of different dances, dancing groups, and I was giving energy to the earth. Whenever I danced, I have a meditation too, by the way, that I do to connect with the earth. There's so much more, but I mean, when I'm dancing, I'm recognizing the earth as my partner, a being that I love, somebody that's aware of me. Imagine this earth being aware of a little insignificant person like myself, but she really is, And I'm not saying that the earth is a God either, because I believe in God and I believe in Jesus in a different way, of course, miracles way. But I also believe that animals are part of the kingdom of God, and so is the earth. The earth is part of the kingdom of God. And we should be connecting with the earth. So, when you're sick and you have a friend come by and they bring you some, maybe, chocolates. I love chocolate.
Me too.
Or, they just come by to say hello and cheer you. That's how we need to be with the earth, because the earth is having a lot of problems. And I believe the earth is going through a transition. And it's going to be like a birth, and it could be very difficult. Part of what I do that I don't really discuss in public is to work with the earth in different ways. And that's something that the dolphins taught me.
Yeah, I do that too. That's why I call myself the activated earth, because that's the way I work with it. It's like, how can I open up this portal of energy that I know is stored here and share it everywhere? So that's part of what I do. So I really appreciate that you are working with the earth. We need her and she needs us. And I know that you mentioned in the notes that you sent me that you talked about earth connection, about the importance of it, and we're kind of diving into that organically right now. Can you speak on that in greater depth?
I think it's up to the individual to start to realize that animals can think, and that I actually went to a college session, and this fellow wrote a book to prove that animals had emotions. I get there, I'm like, okay, is that it? Is that all there is? Of course they have emotions. What? And people were asking these questions about animals having emotions. How do you know they have emotions? And I just got so annoyed. Anyway, like, I don't want to come off sounding superior or anything like that. It's just that this is all open to everyone. I didn't have any special powers. Well, maybe I did. Maybe we all do. My intention was to connect with the earth and connect with the dolphins first, right? And know that I'm a spiritual being. So I think that's how we're going to blossom into it, by knowing that we are spiritual beings, that we are living an experience, and that we have the power to open our hearts and be more flexible, fluid, understand more, let go of a lot of the old patterns, have a little bit more respect for the native people and for our earth, and, actually consciously connect with the earth, which is what I've been doing and building on that from the time I met the dolphins. I've been building on that and building on being able to communicate with animals as well. And
Yeah.
that is like, this is how we're going to open up to the earth. And then when you're ready, more comes. More comes. I remember we started the Women's Lodge in Toronto. Unfortunately, it didn't continue. There was some problems and it shut down, but it was an amazingly beautiful place. And I remember the founder of the Women's Lodge telling me, Deborah, there's so much more you can do with the dolphins. And I was like, at the time I was writing this book and I got the book out there, and so I was, putting the book up on tables and going different places promoting my book. And it was so hard. People looked at me like I was absolutely insane. It was very difficult.
Yeah.
But I had a few people come up and actually talk to me. A lot of people came up and jeered at me.
There's a lot more openness now than there used to be around things like that, and receiving, information, wisdom, communication from all things. I receive it from trees. So, everything has a story to tell and a certain type of wisdom. And I love the loveliness of your message. And I'm wondering, as we wrap up, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that I know you've got a list of things there. What have
I've got a lot.
what have we not covered
Oh,
that
there's so
you
much
want to talk about?
Yeah, we just couldn't cover everything.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you have a couple minutes here if there's one more
Yeah.
you want to talk about.
Okay. I mean, one of the things I want to talk about is sending out love. I've already talked about that briefly. But I'm also a hypnotherapist and I do work with people. I do therapy work with, well, I did. But I've been dealing with my own issues, and I lost my husband in 2019, and it was a great blow. He was very supportive in this work that we did, and he was, now that he's gone, it's been very difficult for me. A lot of difficult things happened. And I realized when I was writing this, getting ready for our interview, that I feel a loss of his love.
Mhm.
And when I was going back and remembering my experiences with the dolphins, I really mourned for their physical presence because I haven't seen them in quite a few years. So there needs to be more love, and I'm working on that. And I'll probably, I have my little service dog as well. He's a toy poodle, so I love him. And the bond between us is getting stronger and stronger. So it's the flowing of love. Dr. Fran Joseph Mesmer was a very famous hypnotherapist. He coined the term mesmerization. Fran Joseph Mesmer. And he also had a term, it was called fluidum. So he imagined that there was an actual fluid that he could manipulate, that he was sending to people. And I really believe that's true. And that's what I'm doing when I send the love or the fluid to dolphins. He also talked about animal magnetism. He was able to mesmerize his animals, which is, I think, what's happening when I'm communicating with the animals. And Mesmer had a little bird he used to talk to and live with and really communicate with. And he termed that animal magnetism. So I think that it's really important. It's sort of like a basic need of life. that we start to learn how to use the force of love, which is a verb. It's not just a noun.
Right.
And we need to use it. We need to press it into service, so to speak. And, one of the things that the dolphins taught me after years was how to, okay, I don't want to lose people here, but I really believe that we're going through a lot of major earth shifts. And it is a possibility that the earth is like shedding her skin like a snake, and things are happening. A lot of earth changes because of the degradation and destruction. And I think it's important for people who care about the earth to realize that if they want to stay on the earth, they're going to have to learn how to use love and communication, because, it's not going to be a new place if everybody comes with their old ideas. I could say a lot more about that.
I could listen. I could listen for a long time. I sat here and didn't even feel like I needed to ask you any questions. I could just let you talk the whole time. And I think that's beautiful. And I would love it if you would share how people can get in touch with you, how they can get your book, and where can they follow you?
Sure. Well, my book is on Amazon.ca and Amazon.com, and it's called How to Connect with Our Living Earth, Telepathic Love from the Dolphin. And I said love, not messages, because it's the love that's the most important thing. And my name is Deborah A. Frenette. You can find me on Facebook, Deborah A. Frenette. I have my own website, and it's called NMT Canada. That's Norman Mother Tom Canada.com. There's lots of information about the work that I do, and there's some links to my books. My dogs decided to bark.
That's okay. My cats come in here and make noises, and
Do they?
Yeah, and they get in my lap.
Yeah.
Animals get to be part of the
I
process.
think he wants to be part of it.
Oh,
He wants to say hello.
beautiful. Hi there. So didn't you tell me that you also have are you offering a free gift?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So, if they could get in touch with me via the email that you'll be sending out,
Right.
I would like to do a group session, and I'm not sure whether we're going to do it on Messenger or Facebook. No, I'm sorry, Messenger or Skype. More or less depends on who registers and how many people have access to Messenger or Skype. And basically, it's going to be hypnosis situation where I'll teach a meditation that I have that helps people learn how to connect to the earth. And I'm also going to be working at pairing people with their own spiritual connection with the dolphin.
Oh, beautiful. That is an amazing gift. So everybody out there who's watching, if you are interested in this, all of Deborah's contact information will be included in the email that is going out with this interview. And you can contact her. You can go and follow her. You can get her book. I encourage that everybody who is drawn to this act on it. So thank you so much for being here with me, Deborah. This has just been, I'm having the best time with this summit. Everybody is wonderful. Love is definitely a central message, and I just really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about my dear, lovely dolphins.
Absolutely.
And I hope to hear from people, and we'll do the group session, which should be really fun.
Yeah, I think so. All right, everybody, we are signing out for now, but not forever. I'm making that my new mantra. Signing out for now, but not forever. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Amanda.